know there's a lot of flack about hustle culture. Well, this week I have Duwayne Robinson on the show, and he has worked his butt off in so many different roles to where he is today. He is a community builder, leader, and content creator extraordinaire. He has built Bubba D's, an amazing YouTube channel that I know you will devour and enjoy. You are gonna love our conversation. So let's go. I am so excited to welcome Duwayne Robinson to the show today. He is a content creator and YouTuber for Bubba D's, which is his channel, which you'll definitely have to follow if you love food or you want to get into food or you crave food. Anyways, his content is beautiful. He is so much more than just a content creator, and we will get into that today on the show. So welcome, Duwayne. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. I can't wait to talk more about your journey. And the first thing that I love to ask my guests, because the show is called Maverick Makers, is who are some of the mavericks that have, influenced your life?
Wow. Okay, so that's a deep question. That's a
Yeah.
question that I feel like if I call it one, it's probably going to lead to a whole bunch of others getting a little bit, jealous, so I guess you can call it. But I've had a lot of mavericks in my life, but the one that I think stands out the absolute most is going to be my grandfather.
Aw.
My grandfather was the person who taught me how to use my hands, how to be patient, how to listen, really how to express yourself and going against the grain on certain things that just don't feel right to you inside your heart.
That's beautiful. Like so nice. And when I read your bio, I could see that your family has such a profound influence on who you are and who you are today. So maybe let's talk about a bit about that.
Yeah. So my family originated and came from Jamaica. My grandmother and grandfather were the first to arrive. And then following that was my mom, and my mom eventually met my dad here in Canada, actually. There were two immigrants who kind of found each other along the process. But just going back to the sheer roots of my upbringing, a lot of time was spent with my grandparents, seeing how they had to overcome so many different obstacles, including working back-to-back jobs. So you're talking about working in the morning, working in the evenings. My mom was trying to continue her education and try to find a spot for her within this whole entire Canadian playing field. So there was a lot of key moments that I can just reflect on, but I think a lot of it came down to just having grandparents who were there to support me when I needed to, and also had family like my mom and my dad as well. We were really a tight-knit family, especially as us coming to the country or them coming to the country as immigrants.
And how do you think their work ethic has influenced you?
I think it's probably the sole driver of what I do. My grandfather had this belief that you never want to have one, you want to have multiples. So when it came to working, it was, one job could be good enough, but having two or three could be even more useful down the road. And I take that same principle today. I'm always trying to dabble into new things, looking to find new things that create and spark creativity, but also making sure that you have stuff to balance off the things that you don't necessarily like. So there's always going to be room for hobbies, things that you enjoy. My grandfather was a very dedicated person when it came to working in the backyard, making sure that he had things ready and for the family. So there was never an opportunity for us to ever not have something. He always made sure that he would figure a way how to get it. And my dad followed the same principles as well. My dad has multiple hats that he used to put on. Even now that he's an older gentleman, he's still constantly doing different things to kind of make sure that he's busy and takes care of the family. It's always the number one priority was taking care of the family.
Wow, that's amazing. Let's talk about your journey. So you've been so many different things. Again, when I was reading your bio, you were a chef or a cook, and you've done so many different things. Maybe take us through some of those key moments and highlights through your career or your journey.
So for the professional side, I think I've probably done every single job you could possibly think of. Being a teenager and starting to try to figure out what job you wanted to do, working at fast food places, working at the CNE, working with subcontractors, putting together blinds in people's homes. There were so many different avenues, even doing piecework of making like beds and mattresses. So very, very similar to what my grandfather and my father taught me was, you know, make yourself useful, and by staying busy, it will keep you out of trouble. Being not necessarily put into the best community at sometimes within the Toronto area, it was always a thing with my parents saying, make sure you're not just idle. Make sure that you're constantly staying busy, whether it was working, whether it was doing a part-time job or helping people around the community. You want to make sure that you're staying busy. So my, I guess, real start to getting involved with making money was doing my first piece work job where I think the mattresses that we were making, just the frames, were roughly around like 15 to 20 cents per frame. And then you'd have your hourly rate, which was well below, the minimum wage at that point. I think it was probably around like $5. And really understanding what the value of a dollar was. And then really understanding that you got to connect and work with people. You got to build relationships. You got to connect. You got to talk. You got to realize that we're all the same. We all want the same thing. We're just maybe slightly different in terms of our appearance or what we actually like or do. So that was the core foundation, and then kind of working my way up. I remember at the CNE we put together we had this little restaurant business that they actually hired me for, which was serving hot dogs and food, and I really enjoyed being able to put a smile on people's face by giving them something that they would actually consume. So that kind of, fast forward took me to where I am today in terms of content creation and so on. But then the other aspect of it was always building a professional career by making connections with people, eventually getting me to those spots that I wanted to get to within organizations, being a manager of multiple companies, working with staff and developing them and building long-standing relationships, I think has been always the key. I think my favorite job, though, if I had to pick one that kind of, took me out of my comfort zone, was working for a large retailer. I can say the name now, which was Best Buy at the time, working as a seasonal employee. And that job took me out of my comfort zone because you had to talk to people. I was pretty reserved, pretty laid back and humble on my approach. And you had to constantly talk to people. And I had leaders at that point who were always pushing for a result. And that result resulted in you having to sell additional services to homeowners, not to homeowners, but to actual retail customers. So I actually were there for probably roughly around like 5 to 6 years. Um, and that really kind of projected my life into getting in front of talking to people and kind of sitting back and kind of not necessarily being so scared to talk. So it really pushed me to that point. And now I'm doing content creation. I'm putting out content pretty much every single week. And I still have that nervousness sometimes of sharing my art with people. Even getting in front of you today is not something that I typically do. But it's been something that I feel like I have to do just because you'll never get to your goals of what you want to achieve unless you actually challenge yourself. And that's what I've been a testament of for my whole entire life.
What a beautiful journey, and you've proven I would never have guessed that you are afraid to talk to people. I was going to tell you that I think that's your superpower, is that you're able to connect with people.
I think I do a good job with connecting with people one on one, but definitely being in the spotlight is something that is not um it's not my favorite thing to do. We'll say that. It's a thing that makes me really I have to really push myself to get there.
But you have this YouTube channel, so how are we doing it? We're just pushing through the fear, or what? How, so tell me the goal and how are we doing that?
So yeah, so the YouTube channel started 7 years ago.
Hmm.
It was in a transition period where I was looking for employment, trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do. And I remember my wife at home saying, "Hey, there's this great thing called the Instapot. You got to try it. You love to cook." I was also doing photography full time. I'm a photographer by, I guess you can say, by time. I used to do weddings and so on. And it was like, here's this opportunity for you to use your camera, and kind of share with people, how to use this new product at the time. And I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And I remember doing two videos, and one video just kind of accelerating. You got a whole bunch of comments, got tons of people. I think to this point right now, I think that video has done 1.3 million views, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Um, and it was just me, using this device, talking about what I'm actually doing. It wasn't me and Cam, it was me just doing voiceovers and using my hands and kind of showing them all the ingredients. And you start to build this real connection with people to be able to help them solve a problem, which is, I don't have a lot of time. This is something that I want to cook and make for my family. And I come to your channel because you don't give me a big long intro, you don't tell me about your day, but you get right into the cooking. And I said, I love it. Let's continue doing it. So we continued putting out videos. I continued putting out videos. I had my supporting cast members, which are my kids, my wife, and everybody saying, "Hey, continue doing this." And my youngest daughter has always called me Baba, which is father in Arabic, and my wife is Egyptian Canadian. So tying those two together, and my name being Duwayne, saying, Baba D's. We're gonna call it Baba D's. That's gonna be the name that's gonna stick, and that's been the name that I've always kind of carried since that point.
I love it.
Yeah.
Amazing. So what was that video? You said it was just was it the Instapot?
It was the Instapot. I think it was like a Black Friday deal. We picked up one, and then I think we ended up what the very end of everything. I think I have about six of them, to be honest with you. Um, they just keep on, they're just an amazing tool, super quick and easy to use. And after that, we started to kind of take it from a simple recipe to let's kind of continue doing this. YouTube has been, I think I'm like, what, like 360 videos in at this point. Have a pretty decent following on most social media channels, but it's me just kind of having fun, getting into the zone and sharing simple, easy recipes for people. I think people want simple, easy. They don't want something complicated. And they realize that, most people are not chefs. They just want to be able to cook and make a decent meal at home.
Well, being a producer director myself, looking at your content, it is absolutely visually stunning and engaging. It's gorgeous. I was really excited. I think it was a chicken wings recipe I recently saw, and I was like, that looks so good. I'm so hungry. And yeah, I gotta figure out how to make this.
You gotta do it. You gotta do it. The chicken wings, I think chicken wings as a whole has been, I guess you can say, a hat that I've been putting on quite frequently. People like something quick and easy, especially with an air fryer.
Yeah.
If you have an air fryer at home, you can make the best chicken wings. You don't need to go out to your local restaurant and bar. You can save quite a bit of money by doing it on your own.
Wow. So you're cooking on this channel. Are you also cooking at home?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the in terms of the balance between who cooks and who doesn't, I think I do probably the majority of the cooking inside our home. I enjoy it. Even after coming home from a long day, you just kind of put on that hat. I get into the zone. I listen to some music, whether it's on headphones or I'm playing it out loud, and then I try to get the kids involved as well. Try
Wow.
to get my three kids at home to kind of dabble into their creativity and see what they want to make, what spices they like, what spices they don't. What textures do they like? Because textures play a big part in kids' way of eating, and then also just the taste.
Hmm. So if someone wanted to start their own YouTube channel, what are some of the mistakes or tips that you've learned along the way?
Don't overthink it.
Hmm.
Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it. If you are looking for perfection, then you'll never put out any content. You'll never push yourself because you're always going to be your biggest critic. I'm my worst critic. I'm constantly looking at every little small micro thing that I could have made better. Sometimes I spend like hours looking for the right music on a video. And those are the videos that typically don't do that well because I've overthought it so much. And the ones that I don't think about and I just put it out there saying, you know what, let it happen, are the ones that actually do extremely well. So I would say definitely don't overthink it. Push the button that says post and just put it out there. And don't use your first video as your benchmark. Use it as your starting point.
I think those are great tips and perfect life lessons as well. Is that right? Like,
I think so. I think so. Right? I think we all have this ability to kind of close doors before we even get started. We start thinking of all this stuff that's going on in our head. about how others are going to think of you, or what are people going to think if they see me on this video and I'm doing this, and they're like, what are you doing? That is probably just your mind playing games with you. Push it aside and put it out, because everybody has a unique, amazing story to share. And if you know, even if you don't build a large audience, it would be amazing for your family, your friends, and people around you to know a little bit about you.
Absolutely. How'd you build to 12,000 followers? Like, how are you doing that?
I do YouTube part-time, so I think that's my biggest. If I could ever maybe push the full-time button, I might. Um, but I think the biggest thing is consistency.
Mm.
Showing up, um, and I wish I could put out more, but at least coming up with a video once a week. Or maybe for some older people, maybe like once a month or once every 2 months, but at least you have a plan of what you're gonna hold yourself to. Um, because I think that will build consistency with your fan base, or people who actually want to see, or even the algorithm. Just to say, hey, this person posts, pretty frequently. Maybe we should start showing this to a larger group of people. But if you're only posting once in a blue moon, or you don't have any kind of rhyme or reason of why you're posting, I think that the algorithm just kind of puts you in the back, unfortunately.
Great tips. So in addition to the content creation, because we know that's like one large job, then there's also like the distribution piece, which you just mentioned. So what else have you learned in terms of like, I'm assuming there's like the tagging, there's the thumbnails if you do that. There's so many things. So like how deep can you go and how deep have you been learning about all that stuff?
Thumbnails are huge. They can make or break your video, but I think still to this point, there is this: if your video is about food, make sure that it's about food.
Mm.
Whatever your title is, make sure that that's what it's about, because people will quickly fall off. If you are saying that you're talking about chicken wings, but then I'm talking about something completely different, as an example. So I'd say stick to the topic. Make sure that your video that you're producing has a relevant thumbnail. And I know at the beginning you don't get to actually create your thumbnail, so that becomes a little challenging. But making sure that your tags on the back end actually reflect the things that you're talking about. So tags are pretty much like hashtags, um, but a little bit more detailed on the YouTube world, where you can actually put in, quick and easy recipes for people at home. You can say, this is for your audience that you're actually aiming for. And I think if I could give anybody a tip, that really has changed my trajectory, is understanding what your audience is.
Mm.
Sometimes I do it, I'm completely guilty of it, is you're seeing so much content out there and you're like, hey, I want to try this. I want to be that person. I want to be that quick snap of a finger recipe person. But then you're doing yourself an injustice. You have your own personal brand. You know exactly who you are internally and what you want to project. So understanding who you actually want to speak to. For mine, it's been, trying to figure that out for the longest time, but I think I've finally nailed it down, is people who actually don't have time, people who may have kids at home, but they actually do want to cook or try at least to make food at home, and they want to do it on a budget.
Mhm.
I think those are the 2 easiest things. So you're never gonna see, a big giant, high-end steak on my channel. That's not what we're gonna be doing, but we will be doing some low-end, or cost-effective protein like chicken, um, that most people are consuming inside their home.
That's amazing, and that's why your channel continues to grow because it's accessible content, and I think that's so important, right? Is that people want what's available to them, which is brilliant. So good for you. Amazing. Who are some of the content creators or YouTubers who you admire or, you know, take a page out of their book?
Well, I think the very first person was Peter McKinnon. He was a photographer turned into a big giant content creator. He actually used to work at Best Buy at one point too, so there was definitely some connection there too. Didn't get to meet him personally, but he's a person who I've always looked at his content and admired. Um, it's actually really interesting, and I got to share this story because over the years, and tell you how things come back into full circle. I always used to watch this show about this chef from Canada who was barbecuing constantly. His name was Chef Renford.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And would watch his show like religiously when I was younger, saying, "Oh my God, I can't wait to get all these barbecue equipments. This is amazing." And how everything kind of works, I had the opportunity to connect with him on social media, and he is an absolutely amazing person. Talking about a mentor, person who you can look up to, somebody who inspires me, I would say definitely he's one of those folks who, saw him on the television days, fast forward to the content days, and now I'm seeing him there too and making a relationship and friendship with him.
I love it. Amazing. I remember watching that show too. I always loved like I was imagining myself at the pool part. It was always like he was always outside with the
Yeah,
pool, right? With like
yeah,
outdoor barbecue set up. And I was like, this is the best house ever, wherever he's filming or somebody.
that's what I was saying.
And those and everything he cooked, I was like, holy crap. I love that show.
I was hooked.
Yeah. So are you inviting him on the show? Are you guys gonna do a collab?
I would love to. There is conversations,
Oh, okay,
and it's
amazing.
just finding the time and finding the right collaboration. Collaborations are fun, lots of fun if you select the right people. And I think that's something that I've learned with my time on social media and making YouTube videos. I had a lot of collaborations, a lot of business, I guess you can say, deals. Some of them worked out really, really well. Some of them were not the best selection for myself as a content creator. So for those folks, I apologize for my audience for seeing some of the products that I might have been promoting, but I've always made sure if I didn't promote it in the right way or I didn't believe it in the right way, that I would actually say it. And it would normally turn into give it a try if you'd like, rather than saying that I truly endorse this product.
Mm. Yeah, let's talk about brand deals and sponsorship. So that's something you've explored with the channel. Is there any brands that you'd love to work with or, how has that been for you? Did they seek you out? Bit of both, you reach out to them?
I used to do this thing called the impossible email. So I would just send an email out to a company, multiple companies, letting them know exactly what I do, who I am, and seeing if there's an opportunity to work. Let's say that a lot of no's, a lot of no responses, but then you would get, the occasional, oh my God, I can't believe this is actually happening. Um, and some of them, yeah, I think, when you're a content creator, you're always looking for ways to make additional money, for what it's worth. A partnership and also a brand deal goes hand in hand. And most of the time, they're kind of put together in two different ways. Sometimes you can get paid up front for producing a content or piece of content for them. And then the other hand is you can get like a code or a promo code that you give your audience, and every single time something sells, you get money on the back end. Um, both of them have their pros and cons, I would say. But I think if I had to redo it over, I think one of the things that I would look out for is if it's too good to be true, then don't do it. And the other one is make sure that that brand is in line with what you um, are as a person, and you can see yourself standing behind them and them standing behind you.
Mm.
I think those are probably the two things. I've seen some, fly by night kind of companies, and I'm like, why did I even entertain that conversation? But then I've seen a lot of great things as well.
Mm. Another, wonderful life lessons too. So this is all transferable into just life in general, all these too good to be true. So, yes, absolutely. What's your favorite thing about content creation?
Connecting with people.
Mm.
Connecting with people. I'm gonna share a story because I think it was one of the stories that actually connected me the most and wanting to make content was I had a person reach out to me saying, "Hey, you haven't put out content in a while. What's going on?" And I said, okay, what is this? What is this message about?" I said, "Oh, I've just been really busy." And then they, opened up and said, "I've been going through a medical procedure. And every single time I'm going in for my appointment for this medical procedure, I listen to and watch your content." And I said, "Oh my God, I never knew that I would actually have an impact on somebody's life in that way. That, them watching my content kind of takes them out of whatever they're going through." and they enjoy it to that point where they've noticed that I've actually not been posting things in a while. So being able to connect with people and understanding how what I put out has an actual impact, maybe sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big. But that was the biggest eye opener and reason why I continue probably making content, other than the fact that I enjoy it. But it's being able to connect with people, understanding that I'm helping them at some point, whether it's finding a quick recipe or, maybe bring something different to their family that they never tried. And then also for those who may use my content as a way to escape whatever they're going through.
Wow. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that story. That's amazing. I think we get caught up not only as content creators, but as people in like the likes, the follows, the comments, and then we don't realize that it's those people that are quiet, that are just watching or listening, and those are the ones that we have the biggest impact on. We might not see it, but then you get, a message like that, and then it's like, wait a second, this exactly, this is why I'm doing this. Even this podcast, like we've spoken about this before, it's a full-time job and I had no idea, but there's a reason because it takes a while to build a following. We know that. So it takes a while, but it's just, that every week and that grind and it's like, why? But then you get the messages or you get something where someone's taken one piece of something out of what you're creating or speaking about, and then you're like, okay, well, that's why. That's the purpose. That's the reason. So
It's been happening like for me for the last, I'll say, probably the last like 3 to 6 months. I've been engaging and encountering people who've been willing to share something that I did and I don't even know. Like, oh, you really, because you put yourself on camera and because you're willing to take a chance, I wanted to do the same thing. Or because, you really are trying to do something different at cooking. I try to do something different at cooking. And I was like, oh my goodness, I actually have an impact on people's day to day. I used to get really caught up in the numbers and I somewhat still do. I'm not gonna lie. Because it's almost like a report card. You want to see that growth, but seeing my own videos that have gone viral in a sense where I'm like, oh my God, it's 400,000, 300,000. Oh my God, this is huge numbers. And then you're like, okay, but what did this video actually do for somebody? Did people just, swipe it in the whole algorithm and watched it for a few seconds? Or did I actually really help level somebody up? And for me, I think now it's more about leveling somebody up rather than just looking at the numbers. And it's sometimes hard as a content creator because those numbers in terms of like your following, your audience also dictates like those brand deals and who's coming out to see you and how much exposure does your channel get. um but it's also, I think, more important to be able to say, hey, I actually learned something from you while I was watching your channel, or I saw that little small thing that you put in as an Easter egg in your video, because all my videos have an Easter egg but not everybody watches it. And I saw that you put that little small detail in, and I really noticed it. Those are the things that are more meaningful than seeing the numbers go up all the time.
mm, the Easter egg, I'm gonna have to look out for it.
There's always an Easter egg. There's always an Easter egg, and there's always normally a mess up in what I say, whether it's a word that I can't pronounce, whether it's I just made a mistake and just ran with it to see if other people catch on. We're not perfect, and there's no need for my videos to be perfect. So you get what you get.
I love it. That's amazing. Okay, so look out for the Easter egg.
Look out for the Easter egg.
There you go. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Let's make it happen. I'm kind of a little nervous, I'm not gonna lie, but we'll see if I can get these things out.
Don't be nervous. It's not Jeopardy. It's all good. It's whatever comes to top of mind. And I think
Sounds good.
some of them will be easy. Okay,
Okay.
here we go. Sweet or salty?
Oh, sweet, all day. All
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
Okay. Lake or ocean?
Um, the ocean scares me. The lake is more beautiful. The ocean is depths that I can't even imagine going down to. The lake, it's a lake. I think there's a bottom at some point.
Snapping turtles, maybe.
Maybe. And I had turtles growing up, so I'm okay with turtles.
Okay. Amazing. First thing you do in the morning?
This is bad. I'd probably grab my phone.
I'm sure you're
It's probably they probably look at the time, and then like, oh, there's a message here. Um,
that's fine. I'm sure everyone does that. Totally fine. The honesty is amazing. If you weren't living in this what era would you be living in?
wow. I would say any era that instead of having cars as our transportation, we would be using horse and buggy. I have a found fascination and love for horses. So I think me riding a horse in and out of the city would be fantastic. I don't know why we have cars.
Yeah, a long commute, but
It would be a long commute, but it would be at least some type of companionship. And it
that's
would probably be quiet because there's no music.
pretty cool. I like that answer. That's great. If you could create content alongside anyone, who would it be?
Oh, wow. Hmm. If I could create content alongside anybody, who would it be? I think if I had the ability to go back and rewrite time a little bit, I wish I can do content with my grandfather.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What would you cook?
He loved food. Absolutely loved food. Every single morning he would do like a 3 egg deal. That was his thing. And he would have in Jamaica, they have this thing called bun and cheese where he'd have a bun and some slice of cheese with his 3 eggs. And he really taught the simplicity of food. So keeping it simple is probably the best way. Sometimes when you over complicate things, there's no need for it. Just having some real good down to earth food is what he used to be about.
Love it. Biggest fear?
Biggest fear would be not being able to see my kids grow up or get to a point in their life where they no longer require or need my assistance. I think that's my biggest fear.
That's a big fear. That just put a lump in my throat. Okay.
Yeah, you're getting me all these emotional strings here.
Okay. How about this one? It's kind of fun. What would you do with $10 million?
If I had $10 million, I would be able to, I think, set my family up in a way that I wouldn't have to worry. They wouldn't have to worry. And along so doing that, I think I would want to definitely give back to those who are in a position where they can't necessarily help themselves. So people who are like in the foster system, people who are potentially homeless, new immigrants coming into the country, being able to set up some type of fund to support them. I think there's this really cool guy on I think it's on TikTok and Instagram. I think his name is Zach, where he goes around and he gives money for those who will help him. They'll take whatever they have, their last little bit of money, and he'll say, "Hey, do you have a $2?" And from there he'll take the $2 and say, like, "Why are you doing it?" And then have a whole conversation, and then gives them a little bit of extra money, and then he opens up a GoFundMe to see if others want to actually pay it forward. So I really like being able to do that if I won a large amount of money to set up some type of fund to help others, but also take care of my
Hmm. Beautiful. I love that. What would you say to your 90-year-old self?
family. If I was 90-year-old self, what would I say to myself? Well, I know I'd have a good time because being 90 and getting to that point, I think you're just you're gonna have a good times. But I think really would just say slow down sometimes and take in the moment. I think that's probably my biggest thing that sometimes I don't necessarily do. I'm always trying to keep on moving and chasing after other things. So sometimes it's nice to slow down and see other things. So I think my 90-year-old self would say, make sure that you slow down.
Amazing. All right. How do you want to change the world?
Helping and understanding and talking to each other. I think we are so similar. And I see this, and I think my dad used to say this all the time is underneath your skin, we all have the same blood. If you're in a lab and you're looking at blood as a whole, all of our blood is the same. You're not going to be able to tell which part of the world what blood came from. So why do we always put up so many barriers to kind of neglect or not support each other? We're all in it together, and we can do so many great things if we would just communicate and talk. So I would say know your neighbor, talk to your friends, talk to people around you, because we all have the same thing that we want. We want to get to the next level, and we want to probably support and help our families. So talk it out.
Hmm.
That's how it helped the world, is tell people to talk.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Last question. What's next?
Oh, that's a loaded question. There's so many things that's going on next. I got a whole bunch of things in terms of I want to do a book or a small short form video called The Foundation. I want to do that's a new thing just for your channel. Nobody else knows about this. So I'm talking just to you, Michelle, on this one. The other is I want to be able to do a couple of new content ideas that I have coming up, some product launches. My website will eventually be back up and running with some new products because we did that prior to COVID and we had to shut it down due to COVID. Um, and I want to be able to build like a community of just people talking and engaging and sharing recipes and helping each other out. So I'm trying to figure that mental aspect to it of how that kind of comes together and then continue doing what I'm doing. I enjoy my 9 to 5. I truly do. Um, enjoy connecting and helping people. And I just want to be able to continue doing that. So I've been blessed in a way. I want to continue. Hopefully, that blessing will be able to pass it on to other people.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I am so inspired. I can't wait to seek out the Easter egg every single video and time that I watch your amazing content. Check out Bubba D's. He's amazing. You're going to love it. You're going to love everything about it. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was honestly a pleasure. And it was a lot of fun. So thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Amazing. I'm so glad.
The Maverick Makers podcast is sponsored by Maverick Makers Content Creation Collective. We fuel your content pipeline through video, photography, design, and editorial. Let's connect to your audiences and make more sales. Learn more at maverickmakersco.com.